Hello everybody. We are starting our second session for Social Finance Vibe, Financial Inclusion for People Displaced by War, Empowering Economic Independence. And I'm here, I'm Olga Yeroshenko from Microfinance Center, and I'm the moderator of this session. And I'm happy to welcome our honored speakers. This is Olga Sherbina from International Finance Corporation, Program Lead for Financial Institution Group Advisory in Poland. Monika Heron-Nowak from International Organization for Migration, Career Counselor. And here we have Daniela Marin from EBRD, Program Lead for Advice for Small Businesses, Romania. And we hope that Claudia Belli from PNP Paribas will join us as well. And so let's start with some introduction word. Our session description is very brief and precise. Social finance vibe, empowering the future, and we are speaking about vulnerable groups and about migrants. Despite the favorable conditions for temporary displaced people from Ukraine in European countries, there are still many questions about the financial inclusion for those people. Their access to credit and opportunities to start their own business and not depend on financial assistance. This session will focus on best practices and implemented projects to strengthen the capacity for forcibly displaced people to become financially independent. And we will start with some, we will have actually 4 presentations, and we will start with some overview from Monika Heron-Nowak from International Organization for Migration, with some brief overview with some data from on the situation and needs of Ukrainian refugees in Poland. Monika, you're welcome. Please share your presentation with us.
Okay, thank you very much, Olga, for that welcoming. Yeah, I will start with sharing my screen, and I've prepared presentation about good practices and about situation that we have here in Poland. So, yes. Okay. First of all, I would like to say that in my presentation, I would like to refer to my professional experience as a career and business counselor related to the integration of people with temporary protection status into the Polish labor market. I will try to discuss the most important issues related to needs, expectations, and barriers. I will also briefly present good practices in professional activation developed thanks to the activities of our organization. Well, personal activation is the last step in the integration process, which should be preceded by psychosocial integration, ensuring in the local environment participation in social life, at least on the level related to meeting the basic needs of life. Of course, this is not always possible for various reasons. There are people who have to start working immediately due to financial needs. From my perspective, such situation can lead to rapid burnout, frustration, because neither does the job meets financial expectations, nor it offers opportunities for development. And above all, closing oneself in the enclave of one's own nationality. That is why I will refer to the third situation. So to people who have gone through the process of social integration and are ready to make informed choices related to employment. Okay, so let's focus first on the needs. There is a need for decent work linked to education and or competences. There is also need related to the possibility of confirming qualifications, market and professional, both of them. The need of knowledge in the field of employment process and running a company, own businesses, commercial companies, or foundations, associations. There is also big need of professional Polish language classes run on higher level, B1 plus, and so on. Yeah, talking about expectations, we have to focus on three of them, especially three of them. First of all, financial expectations, which is mostly related to to the provision of remuneration at the level that allows for a decent life, like renting an apartment, participating in the life of the community, for example, cultural events, as well as traveling, making savings for future. The second expectation is related to the possibility of starting a business on preferential terms. For example, open access to competitions for all persons running their own businesses or companies. And the third one is expectations regarding the possibility of taking up employment in a flexible or hybrid way, combining the roles of a mother and employee related to the gender and age structure of people who come from Ukraine. When we focus on the most important barriers, I should say that there are three of them. First of all, linguistic. Consider it not only in terms of lack of access to professional requiring high qualifications, but also access to knowledge, how to set up a business, recognition of diplomas, etc. The second one is financial, lack of funds to starting running businesses or companies. And the third one is systemic. The lack of clear procedures on the part of the state regulations regarding the process confirming entitlements and qualifications. Looking to the good practices. What works here in Poland? First of all, coming up with the various forms of support for both business and entry on the labor market, engaging the funds of EFS Plus in professional activation programs. The use of available tools for professional activation like vocational trainings, internships, co-financing of running businesses, support programs dedicated to the social economy. From November 2022, we have the Social Economy Act, and there are a lot of governmental programs which allows enterprises, social enterprises, to give a job for people with temporary protection in Poland. Then conducting consultations in the native language, for example, in Ukrainian, or with translation into Ukrainian. And the good practices that were provided at the governmental and intergovernmental level is, first of all, establishment of integration centers for foreigners, operating on a one-stop shop basis where migrants can obtain information on all aspects of life in a given country, legalization of stay, social assistance, finding houses, legal assistance, and integration with the labor market, learning languages. There are also international projects on the recognition of qualifications, like DigiReform project, which is comparison of professions and competences required on the Polish labor market with the Ukrainian one. We have also a NEVA qualifier, and as well as websites dedicated to providing key information related to taking up employment in Poland, like Legalna Praca w Polsce, which are in Ukrainian and Russian language. Okay, so as I have only 5 minutes, that's the key points that I would like to share today with you.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you for such an observation of the good practices from your organization. And we are moving forward because we are only 40 minutes for this session. And I would like to pass the word to Olga Sherbina from International Financial Corporation, Program Lead for Financial Institution Group. Olga, you can share your slides with us.
And unmute. Yes, hello everyone, good morning. I will also speak about needs assessment, but it will be a different needs assessment. It will be needs assessment more on the financial sides. And we will cover 3 parts today during the next 5 minutes. What's the profile, the existing profile of refugees that we see from the needs assessment? What's the current offer by financial service providers, such as banks and non-banking financial institutions? And also, what are the financial needs, as we see from the survey of 400 refugees that we conducted this year, in terms of access to finance in general, but more closely access to credit. And so just to give the perspective, there was a lot of movement back and forth in the last year and a half between Poland and Ukraine. Poland hosts the largest number of Ukrainian refugees. The border crossing data shows us that approximately 10 million people crossed from Ukraine to Warsaw in the last year and a half, 8 million crossed back. And so we look at the number of the active registration for temporary protection status, the so-called PESEL Ukraine mode, and that gives us approximately 1 million of new Ukrainian refugees, those who moved after February 2022 in Poland. And approximately 1.6 million of those who crossed the border but have not returned. 95% of them, I'm sorry if this is on the way, are women, and 75% of them are adults. The specific temporary protection status of Ukrainians in Poland, the PESEL Ukraine mode, gives actually a lot of opportunity for Ukrainians to try to return to normal life as soon as possible, because it gives the full right to live permanently in Poland, to work in Poland. Right now, this temporary protection status was extended to March 4th, 2025. So it gives a little bit more horizon for the people to plan their lives, including their family lives, but also their financial lives. And also FDPs can apply for the so-called Karta Pobytu, which is a more or less permanent residency status in Poland, which also allows Ukrainians to open businesses just as any Polish person would do. Out of the survey that we see, as I mentioned, we surveyed 400 Ukrainians. We see that this is a very distinct segment for the banking institutions. 56% of Ukrainian FDPs have university degrees. Out of these 56, 25% have master's degrees, but they are facing issues with admission of their diplomas, especially in some fields like medical, for example. This was what Monica was talking about. 60% of early arrivals among Ukrainian FDPs, those who arrived by August 2022, found jobs and settled down in Poland. And by settling, we were asking questions about their level of integration. For example, do you rent or own an accommodation? Do you have a job? Do you speak the language? Are your children going to school, and so on? So compared to other countries, Poland actually has quite a significant number of Ukrainian FDPs who are integrated. Out of Ukrainians who came after February 2022, 20,000 companies were established and registered by Ukrainians, which is a very significant number. I would have a disclaimer that yes, a lot of them are sole business owners, sole entrepreneurs, and sole proprietors, and it can be driven by different reasons, but nevertheless, people are getting registered as sole entrepreneurs and are actually actively working. So compared to other refugee pockets around the world, FDPs in Poland have rights. They have the Ukraine-assigned PESEL number and the status. They are employed. Many of them own businesses. They are eligible to apply for more permanent Karta Pobytu, which grants them access to financial services. So this is the snapshot of where we stand with refugees. Again, as of June this year, already 30,000 companies were registered as sole proprietor businesses by Ukrainians. So at the rate this is going, and it's likely to be continued, by the end of the year, we would have approximately 50,000 people registered as sole proprietors. As I said, there are nuances to that, but nevertheless, they are registered and working. Many of them work in construction, information and communication services, hospitality, hairdressers and beauty salons, and so on. What's important to say is also 66% of these businesses, when we asked them, they said that they want to keep the company going even after the invasion ends, which means that this is an opportunity for expansion from Ukraine to Poland, some of them relocating their businesses, but also most of the businesses are actually open from scratch. A lot of businesses are opened by women, and they are open for the first time in their lives. As people were seeing the income drop, they need to sustain their families in a foreign country. So they started going into these small businesses, such as kindergarten, schools, hair salons, music classes, language classes, and so on, to improve their income status and to more or less get back to their normal lives. And so a lot of these businesses will remain in Poland even after the war ends. The indications that Ukrainian citizens are settling in Poland and also are planning their future in Poland for the foreseeable future is that they are renting accommodation on their own. At least 40% indicated that. The credits taken out by Ukrainians in 2022, for example, were mostly for mortgages. Due to high renting prices for apartments, due to high, especially in Warsaw, you could see the increase in the rent for apartments. And also Ukrainian citizens, starting from 2021, were actually quite active in purchasing apartments, given it's a small amount relatively in numerical terms, but nevertheless, it's a sign of a certain market opportunity. Also, yes, as I mentioned about businesses, Monica mentioned that the funds are missing for businesses, and this is also true. A lot of financial institutions, such as banks, they are not adjusting, let's say, their credit requirements, and so the Ukrainian businesses and entrepreneurs have to meet the same requirements as Polish businesses. And so one of these requirements, for example, is that the company has to have a full year of tax returns, which means that the company or a sole entrepreneur has to have 18 months of operations. So only now Ukrainian businesses have become eligible for credit. The current market assessment shows that there are quite a lot of services provided to FDPs and offered to FDPs by banks. Almost all the banks provide openings for opportunities for opening current accounts, currency accounts, foreign payments, money transfers. Most financial institutions adjusted their mobile and internet applications and provide them in Ukrainian. Also, the exchange money is not a problem into different currencies, including Ukrainian hryvnia. However, the information on existing value offer varies from branch to branch, from bank to bank, and so improved access to information on existing offer is necessary. Also, we see that somehow the perception by Ukrainians that the services is inconsistent between different branches and different employees and channels. And so sometimes it requires several visits to the same bank, but to different branches or to different specialists to be able to get through and find the person who can help you language-wise, information-wise, and so on. And also, as I mentioned, financial service providers, if they are to see this group as a distinct segment, they need to spend a little bit more effort understanding this group and also adjusting their processes and procedures to better understand the FDP profiles. However, FDPs have become already a very relevant and significant segment on the Polish market. In 2022, FDPs opened more than 500,000 accounts in Poland. Initially, Ukrainians were opening accounts in Polish banks in order to receive the social assistance, welfare, family benefits, and the banks were expecting that these accounts will gradually die out. But no, these accounts remain active, quite many of them, and they are being used now for salaries and so on. The share of new active accounts opened by Ukrainian customers is comparable to that of the Polish customers in 2022. We looked at the data publicly available, for example, for PKO BP, the same for PKO SA and for Santander, that over 60% of new active accounts were opened by Ukrainian. Also, Ukrainian customers proved to be quite digitally savvy, and they are more advanced, and they want to order cards when opening accounts, for example, even more often than Polish customers. Most of the Ukrainian customers are using mobile applications, they are using Blik, they are using internet services. When we asked if certain credit services were available on the market, which ones would you use? The vast majority of Ukrainian foreign refugees, or FDPs as we call them, they are potentially interested in credit cards or in consumer loans. And so that's the estimates us, as brings us, if we extrapolate, to approximately 7 billion in Polish zloty for consumer loans or 3 billion of Polish zloty for credit cards. Smaller numbers, but nevertheless, some Ukrainians are interested and willing to take out a non-banking short-term loan if they had access. And also, approximately similar amount is potentially interested in mortgages. So that's the snapshot of potential number of customers and potential revenue for financial institutions if these products were more readily available for Ukrainian refugees. I'm afraid to go over time, but going a little bit more in depth, there are customer segments that are clearly significant on the market. So some of these segments are more bankable and more eligible for credit. Some are less bankable at this point. Among the less bankable are new wave comers. So the new wave people who recently came to Poland, and they are going through difficult times right now because they don't have jobs. They are relying on social welfare or on the money from Ukraine. Also, there are some people who are integrated more or less, but they don't have stable jobs. And there are people who are unemployed. So these are the segments that are less or not eligible for credit, but there are segments which are clearly eligible for credit or should be eligible for credit in the near future. These are FDPs with stable income, stable jobs. They are in Poland until the end of the war and they are planning to return, but nevertheless, at the moment, they are very interested in short-term loans, in consumer loans. There is a very small segment, approximately 2% of wealthy families, the people who were able to bring assets back from Ukraine to Poland, and they have money to buy, for example, apartments, or they are eligible for mortgages because they have sufficient amount of money for the first installment. There are independent mothers whose economic situation is quite stable, and young professionals with jobs. They all desire different financial services and different value-added services, non-financial services, and use different communication channels. The presentation will be available so you can look in depth, more in depth. But as you can see from communication channels, Ukrainian FDPs are very heavily relying on digital communication channels, whether it's Telegram, phone, applications, and so on. So in conclusion, the Ukrainian FDPs have been in Poland for a year and a half. Their financial needs evolve from the initial displacement when the focus was on housing, shelter, healthcare, clothing. Now it's the process of gradual integration into host countries. And so pursuit of employment, supporting families back in Ukraine, ensuring the future for their children and for themselves, seeking more permanent accommodation, and so on. So right now, the financial needs of Ukrainian refugees are basically the same as the financial needs of Polish citizens. And so it's a substantial market opportunity if we look through the bank's perspective, which comprise approximately 1.4 million fairly well-educated and financially stable Ukrainian refugees. Of course, there is some segment of Ukrainian population which is still not eligible, for access to credit and not bankable, and that's the job of the humanitarian aid organizations and the NGOs, and they will continue to rely on social welfare. But for the banks, it's a plea to consider a very vast segment of Ukrainian refugees who are seeking funds to open their business, who are seeking funds, to improve their livelihoods, and they have a lot to offer. So happy to go forward and discuss it in more depth during the questions and answers.
Thank you very much, Olga. Thank you. Please turn on the sharing the screen, and we are moving forward. We have another presentation from Daniela Marin from EBRD on the workforce inclusion and entrepreneurship facilitation project for Ukrainian refugees. Daniela, please. Thank you.
Okay. Do you see my screen?
Yes, Daniela, everything is perfect. So we can start
Okay.
from the beginning. Yeah.
Perfect. Just okay. Okay, so perfect. So thank you for the invitation, and congrats for organizing such an event. Very, very insightful presentation done by Olga and Monica previously. I learned quite a few things about the situation, current situation now in Poland. So as I will go through my presentation as brief as possible. I am aware that we are a little bit over time. As Olga mentioned in the presentation, I am leading the advisory program for SMEs in Romania, and since recently I'm also coordinating EBRD support program for Ukrainian refugees. Immediately after the outbreak of the war in Ukraine, we launched this program with a very generous support from donors. EU is the main donor of our program, but we also have funding from Italian government and Korean government, as well as some funding from our own capital. Through this program, what we aim is to provide support to displaced people from Ukraine, and we have structured the program in 3 pillars, as you can see here. And through these 3 pillars, we actually want to support beneficiaries that we structure in 3 categories. So the first category of beneficiaries, of potential beneficiaries of our program would be individuals, actually people displaced from Ukraine. By the way, so I didn't mention that through this program we can help Ukrainian refugees established in Poland, but not only in Poland, in other European countries where EBRD operates. But of course, we have a team dedicated in Poland for obvious reasons, because here we have the highest influx of refugees. So coming back to the 3 pillars, under the first pillar, we target individuals, the refugees, after the war that started in February last year. We're looking for employment, so we can help them. As I retained from Monica's presentation that one of the main barriers of refugees is the language. So we can help beneficiaries, refugees, with language courses. We can also help them with vocational technical training. We can help them with IT skilling, reskilling, also job matching, whatever it is needed. We can provide support. Our support comes in the form of subsidizing this training. So we try to partner up or collaborate with organizations that have a database of such refugees with specific needs, and then together with such organization we organize these trainings or programs that are needed, and we EBRD we cover the full cost of such training. So this is one of the pillar. The second pillar, what we target are companies owned by Ukrainian refugees, and relocated in one of these countries, in our case, mostly in Poland, but also we can help individuals who want to start their own businesses in hosting countries. Our support goes in the form of either advisory services. So, for example, if they need support from consultants or advisors in terms of legal, financial, fiscal advice, marketing, strategic development, they can together, I mean, either they or with our support, they can find the right consultant, and we will pay 100% the cost of such services. Also, our support can cover, can be provided in the form of business acceleration programs or incubation. So we try to partner up with local accelerators that accommodate startups or people that are interested to start their own businesses. We can also provide support in terms of mentoring, coaching, so whatever is needed. I mean, we are very much flexible, and as I said, we do not provide money as such, but we can cover the services, the 100% of the cost of services as they are needed. Here we can work, as I said, with individual companies, but also we can work with group of companies which are supported through accelerators or local incubators or other kind of organizations or setup existing in the respective countries. And under the third pillar, capacity building, we can work with a wider range of organizations or entities, either local organizations and NGOs providing support to refugees. And for this organization, we can provide capacity building support in the form of mentoring or business or support to their own employees or their own staff. But we can also provide support in terms of expanding the program that they have. For example, we came across several organizations in Poland delivering very impactful support to refugees by organizing mentoring program. What we can do, we can help such organizations to deploy other programs if they don't have money for continuing the programs, or to expand programs geographically, and we can cover the cost for such programs. Also, we can provide capacity building support to companies that are employing Ukrainian refugees, or that are willing to employ Ukrainian refugees, and our support can go in the form of helping them with best practices, helping them with adjusting the internal HR policies to hire refugees, whatever is needed, and again we can cover the cost of such services. So just to go through a few examples of what we have done so far. For example, in Romania, we provided support to Ukrainian mothers affected by the war for career development. We hired a consultant, an advisor that helped them to prepare their CVs, to prepare for career planning and for the interviews. Also, we had the kind of digital technology training that was delivered in Croatia. So, but these are, for example, I think probably very recently, in about 2 weeks, we will launch in Poland the IT Skills for You, an IT training that is preparing by us in collaboration with ZPP and the Amazon and Cloud team. Through this program, we can accommodate about 500 participants that are willing to develop IT skills, or that they already have, or maybe they already have some IT skills and they want to improve their IT skills in order for them to be then further to get a job in IT industry. Under the second pillar, I mean, for example, in Croatia, again, we did a translation of the guidelines for business establishment. And also we did in Romania or Bulgaria several tailored advisory services for specific companies. For example, in Romania, a beauty salon, we help them with the branding. In Bulgaria, we help with the marketing research for a distribution company. Again, companies owned by Ukrainians established in these countries. And under the third pillar, capacity building, I mean, as I said, we can provide, this is the company Maxima Group, probably it's a well-known group in Baltics. We provided a technical assistant to help them to adjust their HR policies. Also, we provided capacity building support to Job for Ukraine. Jobs for Ukraine it's a matching platform that was established in Romania. I think, as far as I know, they want to expand also in Poland. So these are just examples. I think I hope I managed to be in time with my presentation. I will stop here, and of course, if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer them after the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. Thank you. We are pressed for time, but we also have, I'm really happy that Claudia Belli from BNP Paribas join us. And Claudia,
Hi.
Please say a couple of words, because I know that your organization helped much. So probably some examples, some best practices from your social responsibility organization.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And thanks for inviting us. Actually, for us, the support to refugees, it's an old engagement. We started a refugee plan in 2015, and we opened up a response to face the refugee crisis that happened in Europe, all across Europe. And so since then, we work together with NGOs dedicated to refugee support in 12 countries, like Belgium, Germany, Greece, Switzerland, so across Europe, and really dedicated to provide the support to the NGOs who work on the field. For us, so it started everything through these the support of the foundation, so subsidies. But subsidies so terribly important. The other interesting thing is that we had created some time ago already what we call a Rescue and Development Fund, which is a fund whereby whoever donates among our clients or among our people, among our employees, whoever donates €1, it's matched. So it's a funding matching fund. And this is being used in whatever humanitarian crisis that it's arriving, and we use it extensively in Ukraine, and we're going to talk about it. Then the other thing, which is also important for the refugees thing, is that we have another program called 1 Million Out to Help, which allows everybody in the group to dedicate up to 5 days fully paid by the group to support NGOs. And so during the Ukrainian crisis, and even today, there are many working on that. But I would say this, of course, is not enough. So what are the banking side? On the banking side, I would say it twofold. One, it's on the fold of microfinance. So a kind of big actor on microfinance. We have to create MicroStart in Belgium, MicroLux in Luxembourg, and they really very deploying a huge service for refugees. Still on the fact of microfinance, there are microfinance corporations like Permicro in Italy, who has requested us a dedicated line to support Ukrainian women refugees. And then they said, let's make something in between, a blended finance mechanics, where our foundation provides an amount of loan as a first loss guarantee for their loans. And we work throughout Caritas, which is another NGO based in Italy, so that Permicro can do their loans to Ukrainian women. Another way to do the banking services for refugees, which is not only for refugees, but in the end, it's going to happen that is so many migrants and refugees are served. It's Nickel. Nickel, it was a startup now. It's a very big tech company that the group owns, that provides a prepaid bank account that you can buy in whatever tobacconist shop or lotto gallery, lotto shops. So it's in Spain, in Germany, in Belgium, in France, of course. They already provide access to a prepaid bank account to 3 million customers. And actually, Nickel has figured itself as an answer for so many humanitarian crises. And already today, they serve 190 different nationalities. So it means that for whoever arrives in those countries that I mentioned, they can open a bank account just with their ID, with a passport, and it's completely immediate. So in 10 minutes and €20, they have a credit card and a bank account, which is it's the most effective thing that as from the very beginning. And then if we already think that you cannot work alone, so we join coalitions like Tent Coalition, which is across Europe, and it's very, very wide. And so we serve 10 coalitions so that refugees can be integrated, can learn a language, and then through the language and through the skills, they can have a work. And then also on the banking side, there are NGOs like Each One for Tomorrow, which really helps 10,000 refugees to get a job. And Each One, for instance, has received investing from BNP Paribas. Then if we go to Ukraine, well, in Ukraine, and I will be very fast, but you will see that since the crisis, we mobilized 18 million euro through donations to Ukraine, and it was either direct lending, direct funding from the foundation, 12 million, either through this matching mechanics, and then it was kind of 4 million euro of matching donations from our employees and clients, or directly to Ukrainian. What is important to understand is that we have a full bank, the Urkiz Bank, in I don't know how to pronounce it, in Ukraine, with 5,000 employees. And we have also a full bank in Poland, the BNP Paribas Polska. So BNP Paribas Polska was extremely engaged to hosting the refugees coming and to help our collaborators in Ukraine to keep working from outside, but through teams, through different distance banking, so that all the banking services in Ukraine has not been stopped, which was for us the very most efficient thing. So to help those who are there to still have an ATM, to still be able to get the money, to get the cash. You cannot be if you don't have a cash in a work context. And in parallel, we opened up so many bank accounts. So during this crisis, the bank in France, plus Nickel, opened kind of 3,800 bank accounts for refugees coming outside and flying out the frontier. So we see for us, it's a matter of putting together the donation mechanics, the collaboration with the NGOs, and the pure banking services. So to keep the activities, to deploy more activities, and to help refugees to be actively involved into the banking services where we have a banking service. And I'm happy to receive questions.
Hello, Des. Unfortunately, we do not have time for questions because we are run out of time, but I'm really thankful to all of our speakers. I will ask our tech assistants to turn on the poll. This is a brief question to our participants, but I would like to thank you all of our honorable speakers, and to invite all our participants to join our next session, Talk with Leaders, Boost Your Capacity with SIFTA. And also we will continue our conversation on migrants issue at the session starting at 12, and also supported by SIFTA, the Migrant Entrepreneurship Paradox, a thought-provoking discussion. So stay with us, stay with Social Finance Vibe, and follow our next sessions. Thank you all.